Hello, hello,
Hello.
Hello, Michael.
hello.
Let's give it until 5 past, but nice to talk to you.
Hello, hello,
Hello.
Hello, Michael.
hello.
Let's
Okay.
give it until 5 past, but nice to talk to you.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, Michael. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Wonderful.
Perfect. I think now the sound is perfect. Yeah. We'll start at 5 past. Hello, Michael.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, yeah. Hello, everyone watching today on YouTube. Thanks for your interest in today's talk about the neuroscientific background of children acquiring basic skills in math and corresponding difficulties. My name is Jan Buschmann and I work as a school advisor in the edtech company Constructor. At Constructor for Schools, we developed the math program Calcularis. One of the masterminds behind Calcularis, Professor Michael van Aster, who advised on the neuroscientific background required for its efficacy, kindly joins us today. Michael, do you want to turn on your camera? Let me quickly introduce the speaker, as his background is very much at the center of what we do at Constructor for Schools. After starting off on education studies, Professor van Aster then obtained a PhD in medicine and later qualified as a professor for child and adolescent psychiatry. He became a member of the Center for Neurosciences of the ETH in Zurich. He was a senior physician at the Child and Adolescent Psychiatry Department of the University of Zurich, and later head of the clinical departments at the German Red Cross clinics in Berlin and at the Ernst of Bergmann Clinic in Potsdam. Since 2018, he is the chief executive of the Center for Educational and Psychological Special Needs that is part of the German Red Cross clinics in Berlin. He won the 1997 Hermann Emminghaus Award for his research on developmental disabilities at school level. Combining his academic backgrounds in education and neuroscience, Professor von Aster has researched extensively how children acquire an understanding of math from a young age onwards, and especially while some children sometimes fail to do so. On the basis of these findings, a cooperation with computer scientist Professor Markus Groß from the ETH in Zurich was established that led to the development of the adaptive learning program Calcularis, first published in 2011. Michael, it's nice to have you here today. Let me hand over to you and ask you to turn on your camera.
Camera should be on.
Can't see you personally.
Oh. My camera is on.
Okay. Let me just double check.
Jan, maybe you can switch off the camera and Michael can switch it on.
Can you try it now?
I didn't switch off my camera.
Can you see yourself?
No.
Okay, let's continue without that.
Yeah.
Because we have some troubles with camera.
Well, hello everyone, from wherever you join us. Within the next 40 minutes, we will take a look into the developing brain to get a better understanding about which components are essential for learning math, and to explain, second, reasons for school failure and anxiety. We will consider strategies for intervention and thereby briefly introduce Calcularis. And finally, we will make some final remarks. Now, let's get started. Our brains, our knowledge, and our abilities develop experience dependently, mainly during the period of childhood to young adulthood. With our developing domain general abilities, let's call them the engine and the fuel. These are the violet and the orange structures. We gradually build, our domain-specific knowledge and ability modules. Let's call these the equipment, the green bubbles. They are located in the more posterior regions of our brain, parietal, occipital, and temporal. We need this equipment to cope with life, which of course also includes number processing and calculation. These modules provide the knowledge for specific situations in a very fast and automated manner. One of the two domain general players mentioned here, the violet one, is mainly located in the frontal cortex. This engine for thinking and acting includes the working memory and the executive functions. The other main player, the orange one, is responsible for the processing and regulation of affects and emotions, the fuel. This one is located in the mesocortical and limbic regions of the brain and provides the drive for motivation and learning. Anxiety or depression will inhibit this drive, and we will come back to that later. Overall, the quality of interconnectivity between the frontal and the parietal brain regions mainly explain the variance of what we usually call the click general intelligence. Next slide. This process of modularization is also reflected by the dynamic development of our two long-term memory systems, the declarative mesocortical one in red and the procedural neocortical one in green. Learned content that gets more and more automated and crystallized becomes more and more unconscious and are quickly available if needed and without reasoning. They change and move from more explicit declarative to implicit procedural qualities and areas, as indicated by the left side arrow. For example, 5 plus 8 equals 13 must not be counted slowly like in the early years, but can now be immediately retrieved as a number fact and spatially be mentalized as more close to 10 than to 20. Next slide. Within that developmental period, we also lay the foundations of our personality structure, which is represented in our self-concept. We learn to know what and what not we are capable of, what we like and dislike, what we seek and avoid, what we think and feel about ourselves and others. Our past and current self and control attributions creates our motivations, guides our behavior, and are essential for the way we shape our future. Next slide. The development of the domain-specific math modules with their different representations of numbers begins with a very early click ability of infants to discriminate between smaller and larger sets of concrete objects. This is a core magnitude system located in the parietal brain. From there, the ability to manipulate the magnitude of quantities increasingly and decreasingly grows by learning the first click, counting words with using the fingers that are represented in the sensomotor cortex. With entrance to school, the number word sequence as well as the rules for transcoding into the Arabic notation system becomes taught systematically. These two systems for the symbolization of numbers are quite distinct, not only according to their representational properties, verbal versus visual, and the associated locations in the Perisylvian language areas and the occipital visual cortex, but also to their syntactical and morphological structure, for example, the positions of ones and tens. The most important step for the further and higher mass development then is the neural construction of an expanding click mental spatial number line during the primary school years. This happens again in the parietal brain. According to Kamilov-Smith, it is called a representational redescription. This enables the mental manipulation of now abstract, not concrete, numerical magnitudes and the estimating calculation by mentally moving forward and backward on that number line. Next slide. Among lots of different reasons that can disturb the development of these specific number modules, one particular concern is the increasing number of children who grow up bi or multilingual. This implies that they have to learn more than one number word sequence with different irregularities to be automatically transcoded into the Arabic syntax. The example of these 13 years old and severely dyscalculic twins shown here, Marco and Maria, grown up with 4 different language environments, Portuguese, Serbo-Croatian, English, and German, demonstrates that such quite often neglected biographical backgrounds can cause deep irritations about what a spoken number means according to its magnitude and its spatial position of the number line, and therefore to establish that module. For example, the inversion of tens and ones may mean that 28 or 82 may be located near to 100, 82, or in the middle between 0 and 50, 28. Next slide. This brief view into the brain is here summarized as a 4-step developmental model. It's published in 2007. The neural maturation of the different click domain-specific modules in different brain areas goes along and depends on the development and maturation of the domain general click cognitive abilities like working memory, attention, emotion, regulation, and the increasing click quality of neural interconnectivity. This model aims to predict and explain the core stages of typical development, as well as different reasons for atypical development. Next slide. A rough classification of different clusters of atypical development is listed here. Click first. The pure and circumscribed dyscalculia refers to specific core deficits in the processing of magnitude related to the parietal cortex.
Michael, are you still here? You're muted. Please excuse the technical difficulties. Michael, if you are still speaking, we cannot hear you right now. The difficulties of bringing people together. Ah, fantastic. Now we have your video. And can I hear you?
Great, great.
Okay. Can
Super.
you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Now we
Wonderful.
are where we wanted to be. Perfect.
Okay. Okay. Second, click. What is specified here as mass learning disability refers mainly to deficits in the domain general functions, the motor and the fuel part. like attentional and emotional regulation. This impairs not only math learning, but also other domain-specific areas like reading and spelling. The third group, click, includes children with more pronounced systems of comorbid disorders in attentional and executive functioning like ADHD. And fourth, finally, click, the extremely relevant for the whole learning outcome is what children experience with their difficulties in school and in daily life. Following to chronic failure, they develop specific anxieties and avoiding behavior. Brian Butterworth visualizes this relationship between failure and anxiety with these two circles, the virtuoso and the vicious one. To reduce anxiety and interrupt the vicious circle, successful learning has to be established. This is how to move to the virtuoso circle, the King's Road. Math anxiety is a real and a justified fear, not a neurotic one. Click, ability mostly should meet or slightly surpass to what is demanded and should not be below. Click. Next slide. I can very much recommend this autobiographic novel by Daniel Pinnock. The author himself was a cancre, a boy who was chronically failing at school in math as well as in reading and spelling. He later became a teacher and finally a successful and well-known French author. This is a quote from page 13. In any event, yes, fear was the single most important factor of my schooling, its padlock. For the teacher I became, allaying the fears of my worst students was a matter of urgency to force that lock open so that learning might stand a chance of squeezing through. Children, of course, can feel the inner state of their mothers or fathers when they are doing homework with them. The study mentioned here could show that if the parents are math anxious themselves or have had a painful biography in relation to math, their child implicitly learns to believe that math must be a serious or dangerous issue. This creates a measurable and significant risk for math achievement and math anxiety as well. Next. In order to get proper diagnosis, we developed and standardized a math anxiety interview, which tries to record anxiety symptoms according to different situations in school and in real life, in their affective, their cognitive, their behavioral, and physiological components. Next. This is how math anxiety looks at the brain level. This math anxiety activation patterns, the orange structures in the brain there, corresponds to that of physical pain in the limbic insular region. So no wonder that this leads to avoiding behavior. Next. We could demonstrate similar effects within our own longitudinal functional brain imaging study. compared to the typically achieving control children, the dyscalculic children showed a catch up after an interval of 4 years in activating the relevant parietal regions for spatial number processing. This was also accompanied by a decreasing discrepancy to the performance of the typically achieving children. But what we could see additionally is that the dyscalculic children, other than non-dyscalculics, significantly activate regions, including the insula, that are responsible for regulating and coping with emotions like anxiety. Next. Using our first Calcularis prototype, we carried out an evaluation study in 2010 at the behavioral as well as the brain level with functional magnetic resonance imaging. We took measures before and after a training period of only 5 weeks, in which children used Calcularis for a minimum of 15 minutes a day, 4 times a week. The results have quite been spectacular. A behavioral increase of math performance and a decrease of math anxiety was accompanied by an increase of parietal brain activity, the domain-specific equipment, and a decrease of frontal brain activity, the time and energy-consuming domain-general thinking motor, which of course releases frontal capacity for further learning. Next. During the following years, we developed Calcularis up to the current high level of individual adaptivity and performed a series of complex and costly evaluation studies. I will not bore you with statistics. In short, what you can see here, the results showed that while math performance increased significantly, the green blocks, math anxiety decreased, the red blocks. And Calcularis has also proven to be effective not only for children with specific learning disabilities or difficulties, but also for all other typical learners.
Thank you, Michael. Here I will quickly jump in to explain a little more about how Calcularis works. And as we saw, these different areas of the brain respond to, in fact, must be stimulated by different audiovisual inputs. Remember the different ways in which a child learns about the representation of numbers? At first, it can only distinguish between smaller and larger quantities. Then it starts counting with the fingers and with number words in school with the written Arabic numbers, and eventually it develops an internal number line. Now, imagine simultaneously energizing all of these. As described by Michael earlier, when all the brain areas are simultaneously activated, the connections between them grow, they are strengthened, and so is the learning process. Now imagine using these different audiovisual inputs and associating them with the numbers we use to solve mathematical equations. Calcularis presents children with preliminary exercises at first that help, for example, here, internalize the concept of the number line by visually representing numbers into blocks of singles, tens, and hundreds. You see the different colors, green the singles, blue the tens, red the hundreds, and asking the children, in this example, for example, where does 95 quite literally fall onto the number line? You must imagine the cone falling from the top down, and the children are asked to guide it left or right with the keyboard. Later on, children solved the same exercises that they would solve in a handwritten in-class test. I guess the typical math that we all know from school, in this case, 79 plus 12, but always with the help of these different multisensory clues that they trained in earlier exercises. You see the number line, you will hear the sound, you will have the different colors associated with the blocks of singles, tens, and hundreds. Importantly, by analyzing the learner's progress, calculators can switch between those classroom-like exercises, those ones, and the preliminary exercises like this one. In fact, exercises are tailored to the competency level of the learners so that children don't lose motivation from either too easy or impossibly difficult tasks. As Michael explained, that would hurt motivation and thereby the ability to progress. Further, this adaptivity ensures that no gaps develop in the learning process that so famously make children struggle with, and here quite literally, fear and feel with pain, math in the later years of school. Up until here, we have very much looked at the intervention usage of calcularis, as in a case of dyscalculic children. But now going back one slide, I just spoke about its adaptivity. And in Switzerland, where the program is actually, where it actually enjoys quite a broad appreciation in schools, teachers realized early that this adaptivity makes calcularis a uniquely useful tool in a regular in-class setting, where some students fare easier and others have more difficulties with the curriculum. Those students who excel in math, they will get the exercises that conform to their difficulty level. Meanwhile, those students who find it difficult to catch up with the orthodox two-dimensional handwritten, imagine this as a typical in-class exercise in math, but without all the multisensory helps. So those students who find it difficult with this orthodox curriculum, they get the support that I described in the previous slides. And finally, calcularis can be used at home. That could be as a homework in an in-class setting, or for parents as an additional support to the learning in school. This is made possible as calcularis is browser-based and easy to use, with a single login for each learner. In the end, calcularis is useful for all children. They can learn math, importantly, at their own speed, but always with the aspiration that everyone, upon completing calcularis, should have confidently internalized the basic skills of math. For some final words, I will hear, and also some questions afterwards, but for some final words, I'll hand over here to you again, Michael.
What's now? I don't see the slide.
Yeah, the final remarks that you...
Yes, okay, but I don't see them.
Okay, do you want me to open the screen again?
Oh, yeah. I can
no, please
them
continue.
Seeing
Yeah, please
them.
continue like this. Yeah.
Well, my final remarks relate to the brilliant work of John Hattie in 2009. He stated that the quality of teacher-child relationships is crucial for educational outcome. And what I would like to remark here is that adaptive intelligent tutoring systems like calcularis aim to automate basic knowledge availability. They will and do not replace, but relieve teachers. Teachers gain more time for supportive teacher-child interactions, as well as for arguing and discussing children's reflections during the lessons. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time, Michael. And thank you everyone on this call. Now, give me 1 second. Now, for everyone interested in the call, who is swayed by your words and ours, if you're interested in using Calcularis yourself, you can get in touch via these QR codes on the screen. You can directly purchase home licenses on our website. As a school or learning institution, you will find a contact form there to get in touch with us, to get in touch with me directly. And Anna will post in the chat my email address as well. She will also post the relevant links to these that lead to the website for parents and for schools. I will leave the QR codes up here for a minute. After that, we will open the floor for questions. Now, the format, unfortunately, doesn't allow us to have a face-to-face communication, but we will take the questions from the chat, and I will read them out to you, Michael, in the hope that we will make the best out of it. I will leave the QR codes up for a minute, and then we will move to the questions.
Okay.
Okay. But what's the easiest? That I just read them out to you? Although there's one question that I feel confident to actually answer myself, which I'm
I opened the webinar chat now and
no, the questions are actually, I will read them out to you. They are not here in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, I'll move over to the questions in a moment. Some of the more technical questions, I guess, came in at the first half of the call when you were talking about the more theoretical aspects of Calcularis. Does it make more sense that we address those first or the Calcularis ones, the more specific ones? Maybe we do the more specific one first. For example, there's a question now. Let me open the chat. There is a question, what age group is Calcularis pitched at?
well, I have a lot of experience also with adolescents, but it's made for the first 5 grades mainly. It can begin in the 1st grade and up to 5th grade.
Yeah, if I might add to that, in Switzerland, where the programs enjoy quite a broad popularity, the typical learning is recommendation is for an in-class use for the end of the 1st and then 2nd, 3rd, and 4th year, and then later on with individual children who are falling behind. Calcularis does not so much, its content is limited in the sense that it is teaching the basic operations in math, addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, up to 1,000. But these are the foundational skills, and therefore repeating them even after 4th grade should make a lot of sense if children struggle. And I want to add one last thing. The idea is to grow the content of Calcularis to encapsulate the room up to 1 million. And we are looking for a release then for the next year, potentially.
Yes, and what should be also mentioned is that Calcularis aims to establish the main tools, mental tools, to work. This is the spatial number line, to work with that. And then if this is established, the further steps are much more easy.
Yeah. So yeah, is there an age limitation? No, not necessarily. But is it? No, actually, not in. It's certainly there is certainly no age limitation. But does it convey a certain content? Yes, the content typically of the first 4 years in math in school. Okay, another question, and this one I will just read out to you, but you will have to deal with it. Does the teaching learning method, active versus didactic, affect the speed by which the shift from the meso to the neurocortical processing occurs? Can you read the question yourself?
Does the teaching learning method, active versus didactic, I don't know what is meant by active versus didactic, affect the speed by which the speed of the shift is at least a process of automating process. If I repeat things very often, they grow into the unconscious level, into the fast level, into the quick level, the neocortical level. And calcularis, teachers don't like that very much, this training. But calcularis does it in a very stimulating way. We have also in calcularis reinforcement system, not inbuilt in the training, so that it's not gamification. There's no gamification within the training, but outside the training, within the program, there's a reinforcement structure that is very motivating. Children can collect animals and feed their animals in the zoo. This is quite nice. And well, some things has to be learned and repeated more and more. And if you can remember and must not use the time-consuming method of counting, but retrieve a fact from memory, then it is there and available always. I hope I could answer the question properly.
Maybe the person asking the question, if they feel that they want to add something to it, they could also write it in the chat again. But thank you. But then there's the question, if calcularis scales up into high school, which very much links with the first question, for what age it is. I would say here again, there are people, there are adults using calcularis. It is not
these adults are mostly children or adolescents who had severe difficulties. Then they can use it also because the level of understanding and of automating is behind. Then they can use it, of course. But in the regular school curriculum, it is built for the first 4 grades, up to 5 grades.
Yeah, could we say that the intervention usage for children, no, excuse me, not for children, the intervention usage then for people without dyscalculia is really age independent?
Yeah.
Okay, another question would be, how do you meet the learners where they are at with ability while still helping them learn and apply grade level material?
Oh. How do you meet them?
Maybe we skip to
one more. How do you meet them where they are? Well, this is a method this is the artificial intelligence method. The program always calculates on the basis of what the child has answered before, the program calculates probabilities for what is the next task that the child is able to master, you know. And this is a complex. This is very complex. The informatic part of the program, you cannot see it.
Maybe we can quickly find the slide of the BaseNet. Would that be appropriate?
Yes.
I have it somewhere.
Wait.
I'll find it in a moment.
Okay.
Just to circle back to this question.
Okay.
But in the meantime, there's another question here. First, thanking very much for the talk. But is the Constructor platform available in other languages, French? I will quickly jump in for this. Yes, it is. Calcularis is available in several languages: English, German, French, Spanish,
Portuguese,
Dutch, Swedish. Would be really worth, I think Bulgarian would be worth asking specifically if you're interested in using it in another language via the QR codes, via the contact forms on the website. And then my year 11 are 15 and 16, but function at a much lower level mathematically. Would Calcularis help them? That, I think, goes back to the previous question of the age appropriate. If Calcularis is age limited, and here I guess referring back to what you said, as an intervention tool, no, it is not necessarily age limited.
Okay. And there's a specific question to Calcularis also. I have used Calcularis with my dyscalculic students. Do you see it? Jan?
Yes, some of them could not proceed because they were just not fast enough with their answers. Can that be adjusted? Yes, it can be.
Yes.
I would ask here to get in touch with the support. That is support at Constructor, like the company, support at constructor.tech, T-E-C-H. They can adjust certain parameters like the speed at which answers are processed in Calcularis. There was another question further up.
So Calcularis assists, CM asked, so Calcularis assists in building prerequisite and foundational skills so that students may improve overall mathematically? Yes. This is a core tool to build the mental number line and to automate, to be able to use this tool. It's relevant for every particular area of mathematics.
Further up was a very specific question. I have a student with hydrocephalus and he lives with shunts in his brain. Do you have this question?
No, I don't see it.
It's the fourth question. It might be good that you read it yourself so that I'm not screwing the technical terms.
Well, I cannot see that question.
I have a student with hydrocephalus and he lives with shunts in his brain. Could these affect the way the, in quotation marks, equipment in the posterior of the brain? It's the fourth question in the Zoom chat.
This is a very, I cannot exactly answer to that because I know not the particular befund, how do we call it? Measures of medical measures.
The diagnosis.
Yes, the diagnosis and the particular conditions in the brain of this child, of the student. I don't think that there are any restrictions in using a program like Calcularis for a boy who lives with shunts. This is no problem. The physical conditions are not interrupting or are not coming in conflict with the conditions of the program, the learning program. I'm quite sure.
Okay, I hope. I mean, if the person who asked the question would like to give more context, please feel free to
Yes.
write it in the chat. I have a blind student. Can he use it? My assumption would be it's severely limiting what the program
Yes.
does.
I don't think so. This is not possible. For a blind student, he cannot use Calcularis because it's strongly visual input.
I was hoping to quickly show the BaseNet. I just need to find it.
I have it here, but I cannot transfer it.
Ah, yeah. I don't know. Can you share the screen? No, I'm sorry. I have it somewhere. I just need to.
In one of the first versions of our presentations, there is it in the appendix.
Okay, maybe if we have another question while you answer the question, I can
Okay.
go and try to find it. Are there any more questions? I have a blind student. I agree.
Does the teaching learning method affect? This is we just answered that one.
Michael, can you have a look at the chat for 1 second and I try to find
I look in the chat. Yes.
Okay, super. Thanks. Yeah, here is one. I'm not sure if it is exactly the slide you were looking for,
Okay.
but maybe let me quickly share my screen. Give me 1 sec. Excuse me. Can you see it now?
Yeah, wonderful. This is a very, very small part of a really large so-called adaptive base net. So what you see here is addition with material, addition without material, with crossing over the tens and without crossing over tens and so on. And children go through this net and meet specific difficulties or steps. And if they reach these steps, they were guided to the next level of difficulty or kind of tasks. So one child can go a quick way, and other children need some supportive intermediate games to fix or to automate knowledge to be able to solve the next steps. This is only a very small view into these informatic base net structure, which is really, really big. And this allows to decide what will be the next task for the child that can be mastered by the child and will not be impossible for the child to solve.
in the office in Zurich, there is actually a printout of the whole basenet, and it takes a whole wall on the corridor
Yeah.
to cover. Maybe if I may just share again from our presentation earlier. You can see my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Just to connect this with this slide, maybe.
Yes.
The basenet is basically the basenet is that what decides which way the learners go. Is that fair to say?
Yes. On which way you take to the aim, to the learning aim.
Yeah. And importantly, just to say, the idea always being, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea always being that upon finishing this path, some students might take a longer path, but upon finishing it and arriving at their own speed, each learner should have confidently internalized the basic skills in math.
What is, according to the math anxiety problem, working with a program avoids to be compared with other students. They go their own way and must not be are not be blamed by being slower or weaker than the neighbor. You know, this is a really important thing. Children learn by from their own success. You know, the steps, the learning steps are reinforcing.
I don't think there were more questions in the chat. Anna, if you have any, please let us know. Otherwise, I'll just put up the QR codes again. And I don't know, I'm not, was there anything new in the chat?
How can parents
Yeah.
help support their child with ADHD and dyscalculia? What techniques and teaching methods work best? My child is in grade 4. Well, ADHD is a problem of regulating attentional the attentional focus and hold the focus, and well, I don't know if your child is in Behandlung. Was heißt Behandlung? Perhaps
Therapy.
in therapy, you know. Many children with ADHD become medical therapies, and also behavioral therapies like behavioral therapy, so that they can learn to keep attentive in a thing and can be supported. But what my experience is that children with ADHD can very good profit from techniques like calcularis, because children with ADHD like to be on a screen. It's easier to concentrate on the task than in the classroom, where different cues are distracting attention.
I would add to that in fact, many of the special needs teachers that work in schools that we work with do use the program with children with ADHD. That it is just a question. There's usually not one simple answer.
Yeah.
Will calcularis work well with this child or not? It's a case by case, but in many cases, also because the exercise structure of calcularis is very repetitive. In many cases, children with ADHD have found the programs to be very likable and worked well with them.
There's another question. As a parent of dyscalculia, can this be used for more than one child in the family? Of course, yes.
From a contractual point of view, yes, also there is a sibling discount, but I would forward you again to the website there with the QR code for parents. I would at that point say, also conscious of time, that we will leave it at that. Michael, thank you so
Yes.
much for your time. It was as always very insightful, and I hope
Thank you
that
for your attendance.
that the people watching us have taken inspiration from that. And I encourage everyone to look at the more available resources, including several of the studies that Michael mentioned, also on our website. Michael, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Jan.
Thank
And
to
Michael.
the audience. Okay.
Thank you.
Have a nice day, everyone.